Adventure time! Oh, look at it, it's a cat.
After enduring months of gray skies and brown landscapes, I enlisted my friend Ashley to head to La Crosse, Wisconsin with me on an overnight bikepacking excursion to search for signs of spring. But in the process, we'd be reminded how fickle April weather in Minnesota can be. We chose the Driftless Loop, a route created by Nicolette Reker and published online by thenorth.com. The 168-mile route, intended to be toured over 3 to 4 days, includes over 9,000 feet of elevation as it climbs and descends several of this driftless region's bluffs. In case you're unfamiliar with the term, the driftless region includes parts of Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Iowa that were carved by water but escaped the Ice Age flattening that leveled other areas of the states. Limited by time, we'd condense the route into 2 long days of riding, then drive back to Minneapolis on completion of the second day. After loading our bikes, we left our motel and headed for breakfast at Marge's on Rose, where we enjoyed apple fritter French toast topped with an over-medium egg. Perfection.
We'll head out, and it's snowing.
As we headed into downtown La Crosse to start our ride, we pretended not to notice the icy snow pellets falling from the sky. The high was supposed to be in the upper 40s. These freezing temperatures wouldn't last long, right? The route quickly left Wisconsin as we crossed the Mississippi River onto Barren Island and then into the extended backwater wetlands of La Crescent, Minnesota.
I just came across that road and there was no road. So we hiked our bike up the hill and it seems to be the right direction.
After an unexpected hike-a-bike up a grassy hill that linked 2 otherwise unconnected roads, we were on pavement and ascending our first bluff of the day. The climb delivered much appreciated warmth, both from the hill blocking the wind and our exercise-generated heat. While descents gave our legs a welcome break, the cooling sweat from the climb chilled us as we dove into the wind towards the valleys. But the valleys, how pretty they are, dotted with tidy farms, framed by greening hillsides and frequently little streams. They were the reward for our efforts, a time to gawk at the beauty and enjoy the views.
Pretty. Look at that. This road said it was a dead end.
Right. Around 14 miles, we turned onto what was labeled a dead-end road. Seeing this, Ashley announced, "I have questions."
Adventure time! Oh, look at it, it's a cat. I think. I think it's a cat.
The route continued beyond a locked gate. The vague single-track trail was lined with brush that barely let our bikes through. It was awesome.
Well, we're gonna go that way. This is interesting. Road closed. Here we go.
Too soon, we were back on tarmac, but enjoying the views of exposed rock and a meandering creek on the way to our first town on the route.
This is Hoka. Oh, going on the scenic byway.
From the town of Hoka, we climbed to the top of another bluff where rolling hills and farms greeted us, along with a chilly headwind. The day continued in a pattern of heating up as we climbed out of the bluffs, getting pelted with an icy wind at the top, doing a teeth-chattering descent down the bluff, then slowly warming in the wind-protected valleys. The gray, dark skies felt like a day that failed to launch, never getting brighter or warmer, just staying in a perpetual dusk. Still, we marveled at the small signs of spring we could find. We spotted flowers like Virginia bluebells, bloodroot, wild geraniums, wild phlox, and dandelions. Hoping to stay warm by moving forward, we neglected to get photos. And birds! We spotted bald eagles on nests, perched in trees, swooping down to snack on carrion, and even being harassed by crows. I spotted meadowlarks, a belted kingfisher, and eastern bluebirds. And we were even treated to seeing a barred owl. Ashley stopped to check out a tiny gated cemetery. There appeared to be a small family buried there.
Aw.
A sign at the gate said something ridiculous like, "For rent, neighbors are dead quiet." When we arrived at Spring Grove at mile 68, we stopped at the Ivy Grove Cafe for a hot meal. I was shivering, even though we were indoors. The temperature never got much above freezing today, and the locals were saying it would dip into the 20s tonight, colder than we had planned. I convinced Ashley to pivot. We'd stay in town at an Airbnb tonight to warm up, then have a bigger day tomorrow. Faced with about 110 miles to complete on day 2 if we followed the route, I used Ride with GPS to shave our day 2 mileage to just over 90 miles. We'd meet up with the original route about 15 miles from Winona, Minnesota. We planned to have lunch in Winona, a small town where I went to college. Today, we'd have just 2 big climbs, and the second half of the route would be mostly with a tailwind. After crossing back into Wisconsin, we'd be following the Mississippi River back to La Crosse.
And we're off! So nice to have a cozy bed last night.
We had a lot to be thankful for this morning. Not only did we sleep well in our cozy and warm Airbnb, but today we started out with sunny, cloudless skies. Although the air was still cool when we started, the sun on our backs made us feel comfortable. What a difference a day makes. On one descent, I heard Ashley exclaim something behind me. When she caught up to me, she said I'd scared up a deer when I passed, and it had jumped out onto the road in front of her. Luckily, she narrowly missed it. The rerouted section turned out to be quite beautiful, especially against the backdrop of a bright blue sky. I was delighted that we rode through Houston, Minnesota, so I could take a photo in front of the International Owl Center. Someday, I hope to be there when it's open.
Leaving Houston. Oh boy. So this is our last climb for, I think, 47 miles, you said? I know it doesn't look like much on GoPro, and it's not much actually, it's just long. Oh, we're just enjoying it. Rocks. About to turn east and get the wind out of our faces. Yay. There was Ashley.
Unlike riding the divide, where you ride up into the trees at higher elevations, in the Driftless region, you drop down into the trees. It's amazing how quickly you can go from prairie and farmland to woodland valleys. And unlike yesterday, the warming sun kept us comfortable as we descended, allowing us to feel fully present and enjoy the beauty of the ride. It felt amazing to see Sugarloaf Bluff, signaling that I was back in my college town of Winona, Minnesota. We checked out their new sculptural sign, then headed through the town to eat at Acoustic Cafe, the coffee shop where I had my first ever cappuccino.
Crossing the Mississippi River back into Wisconsin. Who knew this was here?
While I did hike the bluffs around Winona back in my college days, I wasn't a cyclist yet, and I'd never explored the area just across the Mississippi River. I was surprised to see so many trails.
Just entered a Marshland access road, and there's cyclists around here. That's cool. Haven't seen many cyclists on this trip.
Spring was bursting around us today. All but the tallest trees were sporting tiny leaves, and green became predominant in the landscape. Near Trempealeau, Wisconsin, the trail paralleled a pump track. Ashley, an avid mountain biker, couldn't resist a chance to ride it on her loaded gravel bike.
There we go. There's gotta be one in there.
At one point, we saw sandhill cranes flying above us. We both screeched our bikes to a halt to watch them. We felt lucky to see them so close. Trains became part of the landscape as we drew closer to La Crosse. Riding alongside moving trains was pretty exciting. At one point, we missed a turn and ended up previewing a few miles of the La Crosse River Trail, a 22-mile rail trail between Onalaska and Sparta, Wisconsin. It seems like there's no shortage of trails in this area.
Our last big hill.
Our last climb of the trip was a doozy. The quarry climb started at 12.5% grade, backed off to about 7.5%, then finished with a grand finale of over 14%. At the top, we enjoyed the views a bit before descending on a surprisingly rowdy downhill trail. I absolutely loved this part of the route and thought it said something about the personality of the route designer that she put this part in.
This is weird.
In a bizarre twist, the route turned onto a golf course next. With under 10 miles to go, we were still getting a taste of everything on this route. Shortly, we were back on the streets of La Crosse, which was looking quite a bit more spring-like than when we'd headed out just a day ago. Ashley and I set out to find spring on this quick trip, and though it had a bit of a slow start, I'd say we found it. What better way to take note of the changing seasons than through slow travel on a bike?